The following program, NORML Show Live, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegal activity and advise all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting norml.org, NORML.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of NORML Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of NORML. Listener discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think we need to rethink and recriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents NORML Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, NORML's Outreach Coordinator, Radical Russ Belville.
Good afternoon and welcome. It is Tuesday, August 17th, 2010, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world, and just 4 more days until Seattle Hemp Fest. Thanks for joining us for the next 2 hours of news, talk, interviews, information, music, comedy, and more by, for, and about the cannabis community, featuring our NORML Daily Audio Stash podcast in Hour 1 and Toker Talk Radio in Hour 2, where we go to the phone lines and get your opinions on the cannabis questions of the day. Also joining us here in our studio, Rolla J Studios in beautiful Potland, Oregon, the Maestro Ganja John.
Is it really only 4 days?
It's only 4 days. I had to count while I was talking. 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, that's 4.
My heart started pumping a little bit.
I know. So people do want to warn you, on Friday we will not have a live show as we will be driving up to Seattle and driving up later than I expected because I just got the word today from the guy who makes, you know, those classic blue NORML t-shirts
right.
that Cheech wore in the one movie and all, right? Yeah. The new order of those are coming so I can sell them up at Seattle Hemp Fest. Won't arrive here till Friday afternoon.
I can pick them up.
Maybe we have you pick them up because I don't want.
Yeah, I don't want you to miss that party. I'm going to miss that party.
That Seattle slog, man. I'm not driving that at 5 o'clock through Seattle and Tacoma.
Yeah, don't do that.
Also joining us in our virtual studio in Astoria, Oregon, my good friend and half sister, the lovely and talented Cannabis Carrie.
Hello, guys.
Oh, I hope the heat wave is beginning to abate for you up there, up on the coast.
There was a heat wave? What are you talking about?
Well, I understand it. You know, it was up in the 90s up here in Portland, and everybody freaked out. Like, you know, oh my God, it's the Sahara, 90 degrees. Ooh.
Yeah. Actually, last Friday it got up to, I think, 82, but since then there's been about a 30-degree difference between the coast and you, Russ. So
wow.
Go back in sweatshirts already.
I was on the coast this weekend, and every Portlander that, you know, it seemed like everyone in Portland was on the coast.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah. Well, Carrie brings us our news headlines right after the first break, so what do we have on tap today?
Well, today we're going to talk about a doctor in Colorado that has been charged with fraud over his medical marijuana recommendations. We're going to travel to the United Kingdom, where the recession has given rise to more places to grow cannabis. But first, we talk about a Senate candidate who thinks research into cannabis-based medicine is a joke. Oh. So that and more on today's Hemp Headlines. All
right. Sounds like some controversy there. Also, a little bit of special addition to the Hemp Headlines today. I'm going to play another one of our Viral Viper videos. I can't even say the segment right. Yeah. Viral Viper videos. Alliteration. From the Cannabis Cafe. It's music from J-Mac and
Big Dub.
J-Mac and Big Dub. That's right. Cannabis Cafe music and some video from the inside of the brand new 4,000 square foot facility. You'll want to stick around for that one. At 20 after the hour, we have our daily Toker Tunes, and today a very special extra guest. Sarah Kant from Boston, Massachusetts is doing her first interview today of Amber Ladd. So we're going to play some music from Amber Ladd, and then we'll have Sarah and her guest Amber on the show having an interview, I suppose. And then right after that, we've got the California Marijuana Report with Eric Brenner. He's got an interview with Dr. Michael Edelstein, a San Francisco therapist who's anti-12 steps and pro-Prop 19. And then my rant on the top 8 craziest anti-Prop 19 predictions, plus Toker Talk Radio. We'll be right back.
You're listening to NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, or NORML, invites you to our 39th annual national conference, Legalization. Just Say Now. Thursday, September 9th through Saturday, September 11th, 2010, at the opulent Governor's Hotel in downtown Portland.
The war on drugs has been a core failure, and I think that we think that reform laws.
Extend your visit through Sunday, September 12th, and you can also attend the free 2-day Portland Hempstock, the largest outdoor cannabis and music festival in Oregon.
I inhaled frequently. That was the point.
Just Say Now. The NORML National Conference, September 9th through 11th in Portland, Oregon. Details available on the web at norml.org/conference or by calling 202-483-5500.
Hey, you're broadcasting on Stickcam, right? Yeah. Right, big up to the people at Stickcam. I broadcast on Stickcam to BeReal.tv, BeReal TV on Stickcam. So big up to everybody watching for this page. I know your show. I support you. Remember that. Y'all watch that show too, because the more informed you can be about this whole movement, the better. Because it takes all of us to have this knowledge to be able to use it to obtain that legalization. We can get it, but it takes all of us.
Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's NORML News with Cannabis Carrie.
We reported last week about the University of Washington's groundbreaking discovery of a new cannabinoid that may lead to the treatments of Huntington's disease, Alzheimer's, and other brain disorders. Republican Senate candidate Dino Rossi doesn't think that discovery is worth $1 of federal money. Thursday, Rossi continued his crusade against federal stimulus funding by signaling out a $150,000 marijuana and pain project at the Washington State University in Vancouver. He called it a boondoggle project that shows just how out of touch Washington, D.C. is with taxpayers. The press release that went out last week had this gem: Washington State taxpayers are tired of their money going up in smoke. This bill isn't going to stimulate anything other than the sales of Cheetos. Psychology professor Mike Morgan took exception to Rossi's characterization, calling it the most misleading press release possible. Morgan received a 2-year, $148,438 federal stimulus grant from the National Institutes of Health to analyze the use of marijuana in conjunction with other pain medications, like morphine, to control serious pain. The study aims to help patients suffering from severe or chronic pain, and the grant was reviewed by 3 top scientists and got 1 of the top scores. Morgan defends the stimulus research grant, saying that the fund has already created 2 jobs for a graduate and undergraduate student, plus created a month of summer work for professors. He pointed out that pain treatments cost billions of dollars every year, and his research has nothing to do with smoking marijuana, but is doing valuable research to find beneficial treatments for the millions of Americans that suffer from chronic pain. Rossi has rallied against federal spending during his campaign, arguing that stimulus funding isn't helping the economy and is contributing to huge federal deficits. In a sign of the changing political landscape, the very next day, a spokesperson for Rossi was put on the defensive and tried to backtrack by saying no judgment was made by the campaign on the validity of the research. It seems that one by one, candidates are coming to understand that marijuana reform issues are no longer safe to ridicule.
Never trust a guy named after a prehistoric puppy.
Rossi,
Dino.
Oh, Dino.
Wow, Russ.
Wow, I dropped the ball on that one, didn't I? Okay, so Dino Rossi is concerned about this study, this university study here to study marijuana and pain. And, working with medical marijuana patients as I do, I have heard so many times from every single one of them I talk to that's on pain medication, how their use of cannabis helped them reduce the amount of these addictive, toxic painkillers that they have to subject themselves to from a half to a third. As far as the number of pills they're having to take. It seems that marijuana in conjunction with opioid painkillers is extremely effective. That's something we want science to look at. I get really tired of people, just poo-pooing pain, like people are making it up. Oh, they just want to get high. No, people are living in pain. The Centers for Disease Control estimate that 26% of all Americans live with some sort of chronic pain on a daily basis. So it's time that we get serious about this and understand that it's not just about getting high. It's about getting real relief. Now, he's worried about this from the aspect of it being, a boondoggle in spending, right? Federal stimulus spending. It's a boondoggle. $150,000. Ooh, $150,000 boondoggle. Rossi, that's 100,000 times less than the budget for the war on drugs in the first place. You want to talk about federal spending boondoggles? Let's talk about the money that we're spending on prohibiting marijuana that is not stopping anyone from using marijuana, making Mexican cartels rich, and putting our kids at risk.
A Colorado doctor has been charged with writing fraudulent medical marijuana recommendations and has been charged with 4 felony counts. Dr. Manuel Aquino Villaman is facing 2 counts each of forgery of a government document and attempting to influence a public servant, namely the director of the state's medical marijuana registry. Dr. Aquino Villaman was in danger of also being charged with conspiracy to distribute marijuana, a charge that was listed on his arrest booking sheet, but not mentioned when prosecutors debated which charges to formally file, according to the Arapahoe County District Attorney. The doctor was arrested in July, but the visit by undercover officers conducting the sting happened in February and again in April. One of the officers, who has metal plates in his head from a serious motorcycle crash 10 years ago, says in the affidavit that he never told the doctor he was in pain because of the crash. The second officer that visited the doctor in April said that he had been run over by a tractor and sustained abdominal and facial injuries, but was suffering from a ringing in his ears. The doctor listed pain as their qualifying conditions for both officers. The Colorado doctor is not accused of having or giving any marijuana to the officers. Dr. Aquino Villaman's lawyer, Rob Corey, said that the doctor made a mistake of trusting the word of the undercover officers, but insists that his client isn't a rubber stamp doctor and points out that he has no criminal history. He calls the charges meritless and said in the case of the first undercover officer, he should in fact qualify for a medical marijuana card under Colorado law. He says that a medical marijuana recommendation is a subjective determination. Different doctors have different opinions. A physician has to make that decision based on trusting his patient's word. We now know that the police were lying to Dr. Aquino. Back in June, Colorado Governor Bill Ritter signed Senate Bill 109 that requires patients to have a bona fide relationship with the doctors who recommend marijuana for them. It requires doctors to have completed a full assessment of the patient's medical history, talk with the patient about the medical condition that has caused them to seek marijuana, and be available for follow-up care. This case may dissuade other doctors from entering the medical marijuana field and restrict patient access to medical marijuana. Dr. Aquino Villaman is scheduled to appear in court September 20th for a disposition hearing.
This is insane, sending in cops undercover, and especially when they do have qualifying conditions like this. We saw a similar story in Oregon where they sent a reporter undercover who had scoliosis and back injuries from 3 car wrecks. And what do you know? She qualified for medical marijuana. Amazing. Amazing how if you have a condition and you see a doctor and he believes your condition, how you can get medical marijuana. That's not a shock here. The shock here is that we're using precious police resources to go after people for using a non-toxic, effective healing herb. And in the state of Colorado, their constitutional right to do so. This is what they find to spend our money on, is to try to bust doctors that are helping people get their medical marijuana. What is the worst case scenario here anyway that we're trying to prevent here? I always hear this word abuse. We're trying to prevent the abuse of the medical marijuana program. Well, what is the worst thing that happens if someone abuses it, right? They go to the state, they tell the state who they are, they show identification, they pay a nominal fee to the state, they tell them their name and their address where they'll be growing marijuana plants and where they'll be using marijuana. How is that abuse when that's what, if you're saying, if that's your point that, someone's faking this, they would have been doing it anyway, right? They'd have been smoking on the sly anyway. Now you know where they live, and they've given $100 to the state, at least in the state of Oregon. I don't know what the cost is in Colorado. It's ridiculous. Let's put cops on solving real crimes.
In London, it is being reported that undercover grows, called cannabis farms or factories, are on the rise. The report out today says that thousands of cannabis factories were uncovered by police last year in locations varying from farms to vacant industrial buildings. Police detected more than 6,800 cannabis farms and factories in the UK in the last 12 months. That's more than double the number found in 2007 and 2008 combined. The farms were found in closed pubs, cinemas, nightclubs, and banks. Police say they have found more than 1.3 million plants in these unused buildings. The increase, at least according to Commander Alan Gibson of the Metro Police, is due to better enforcement and a change in public awareness due to the reclassification of cannabis back in 2009, which has led to more tips to police. Between 1928 and 2004, cannabis was listed as a Class B substance in the UK. In 2004, cannabis was reclassified from Class B to Class C with the intention of enabling police forces to focus on harder drugs and more violent crimes. With the new classification of C, the threat of arrest for possession was removed, and the arrest for cannabis possession fell by a third in the first year. It's estimated that it saved almost 200,000 police hours per year. Cannabis was reclassified again back up to a B classification in January of 2009 under Gordon Brown's administration, and controversially against the recommendation of the government's Advisory Council on the Misuse of Drugs. Later that year, the UK's chief scientific advisor to the government, David Nutt, was fired for publicly saying the move was political and not motivated by science. 5 other members of the council resigned in protest. The vast majority of cannabis grows are still based in private homes, but due to the impact of the recession in the UK, more buildings have become available for the clandestine gardens.
Oh, yeah. Well, this has been going on for a while now with Gordon Brown coming in and this reclassification of cannabis against, Professor David Nutt. Cannabis Cure brings that up, that a UK drugs advisor said, no, this isn't what you should do. We need to separate the soft drug market from the hard drug market. If there's anything we can learn from Amsterdam, that's the biggest lesson, is that when you separate hard drugs from soft drugs, it works better for both. You reduce the amount of hard drug usage, and you have reasonable control and revenue from the soft drug usage. It's the smart thing to do. Thanks, Carrie, for that news from the UK. We're going to turn now to one of our viral Viper videos from J-Mac.
And sorry, J-Mac and Big Doe.
Because I'll mess it up. I messed up Dino today. So
you did mess up Dino, that's true.
So here it is. Welcome to the Cannabis Cafe.
Meet me at the cafe. When you get to dig and take a ride, I'ma be there all day. Smoking on something nice. I'm tired of stressing, my body's aching. I wish this pain would go away. My addiction is my prescription, and I need it every day. Mary Jane. Mary Jane, Mary Jane, Mary Jane, every day. Oh yeah, doctor, here's the news. I got a bad case of putting weed in my food, and I smoke every night before the 6 o'clock news. And at least 2 blunts before I put on my shoes. I put bud butter on my purple haze pancakes. I got a little tincture for my pains and aches, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and switch up the date. So if you find yourself around my way, you can at the cafe. When you get to dig and take a ride, I'ma be there all day. Smoking on something nice. I'm tired of stressing, my body's aching. I wish this pain would go away. My addiction is my prescription.
Oh, loving that video. Check it out. I've got it posted at stash.normal.org. If you'd like to see it, meet us at the Cannabis Cafe. We will be there. We're hoping for a Saturday night type of show is what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Want to have live audience.
Video show.
Yeah.
Not a radio show.
Yeah. It'll be a beautiful thing, like a TV show, and actually get it on cable access here in Portland. That's our goal. Working on making a live Saturday night show. Not to be confused with the other live Saturday night show.
Friday night show. Friday.
Or Friday. Well, not that one either. But
I know what you mean.
In case Warren Michaels is listening,
I got you. Not Saturday Night Live.
No.
Saturday Night pre-recorded. We're going to call it.
We'll be live on Saturday nights. That's what
we
it'll
will
be. But at the Cannabis Cafe, we hope you enjoy it. Also, for those of you coming to the NORML National Conference, September 9th through 11th, if you come early, if you come on Wednesday night, there's a special pre-registration party at the Cannabis Cafe. It'll be open to all of you who are coming out to the conference. So please get involved with that. We'll post that at norml.org/conference.
I think it's break time.
It is break time. We're going to consult my thesaurus and make sure I can say the rest of the words of the show correctly.
We haven't smoked anything today.
I know. I think maybe that's the problem. We'll be right back after this.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support NORML Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would send to South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
NORML Show Live is brought to you by our advertisers and supported by the generous tax-deductible donations of our listeners. If you'd like to make a monetary donation to the show, visit secure.norml.org/donate. Fill in the dollar amount and specify NORML Show Live in the comments. If you'd like to donate equipment or items to be used for prize promotions on the show, please send them to 4110 Southeast Hawthorne Boulevard, number 161, Portland, Oregon, 97214. If you need a receipt for tax deduction purposes, please indicate the value of the items you are donating. Thank you for contributing to the fight for your own freedom.
Really want to legalize marijuana? Prove it. Join NORML today at NORML.org, and your donation will help us spread the growing truth about cannabis. Free speech ain't free, you know.
Free the ganja tree, it's the healing of the nation. Free the Cali weed, good for meditation. Free the pot smokers, they renat the light. Lighting up the chalice, they keep no
Ganja computer.
It's time for your daily Toker Tunes, the best in 420-friendly music from all genres that uplifts, entertains, and informs the public. Today we bring you tunes for Electric Tuesday, our segment featuring the best of modern electric music in the genres of dance, new age, house, and experimental. Brought to you by Sarah Kant in Boston, Massachusetts, and Sarah Kant Photography. If you'd like to submit your song to be played on NORML Show Live, send it to us at stash@norml.org. Now here's some more great independent marijuana music for today's Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, we go right out to Boston, Massachusetts and turn things over to Sarah. Sarah, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Russ.
I understand you wanted us to go with the song first and then the interview, so maybe you could just introduce the song for us.
Sure. From an auspicious start singing in small-town Ontario churches through Toronto, Montreal, Denver, and soon New York City comes 28-year-old future trip-hop superstar Amber Ladd. She will be if her belief that we're all creators of our own existence is correct. A glance at her life shows that there may be something to her utopian philosophy. Just call her the pothead trip-hop Tori Amos. To Amber, music is doing what she loves and always having fun. After being in a Toronto-based alternative band for a few years, and then an individual acoustic project, Amber chose to devote herself to her current solo electronica, going full-time with her music after losing her day job as a graphic artist. Making lemon out of lemonade, or perhaps tea out of stems, her debut album, T-Rip, released on 420 this year after 2 years of work, has enabled Amber to follow her dreams of music, travel, and using her vibrance towards bringing an end to the war on drugs. All of Amber's art is solely created by her. She writes the lyrics, sings the vocals, plays the instruments, and produces her own tracks with turntables, sampling, and effects. Furthermore, Amber has to be genuinely inspired by her own work enough to include it for release. Amber's genre-busting dubby trip-hop that she unapologetically calls stoner music has caused the cannabis community to fall in love with her. Regular appearances in High Times magazine and on radio podcasts throughout North America, showcasing her amazing talent and deep passion for drug reform, as well as playing marijuana-related festivals, including the upcoming Boston Freedom Rally, has led her to be nominated for the fan-based Artist Activism Award to be given out at the Masscan NORML Awards the night prior to Boston's Hempfest. Today's Toker Tune is a fantastic example of Amber's powerful voice and creative skills. Opening and ending with weed-related samples, 420 is an homage to the cannabis reform movement and to pot smokers everywhere. The idea of a musical playground for the stoned emerged via seeing medical and recreational marijuana consumers from all walks of life enjoying and spending time together in one room at a 2008 rally in Toronto in protest of the Kindred Cafe raids. It's difficult to pin down this highly layered song. It could be said that it contains aspects of trip-hop, experimental noise, rock, psychedelia, and even the gospel music Amber grew up with. One person who walked through where I was listening to 420 said it sounds like Hendrix. But the sheer variety of influences present perhaps means we're not supposed to, or that the incredible depth of this highly layered composition is an individual trip to be taken. Discover the wonderful world of Amber Ladd on MySpace through our personal and fan pages on Facebook or on Twitter. As always, all links will soon be up on the NORML Stash blog. The T-Rip album is available on CD Baby and iTunes, and be sure not to miss upcoming special releases, including a cover of Rocky Horror Picture Show Superheroes and a track featuring Rick Cusick of High Times. Stay tuned after hearing 420 for my live interview with Amber Ladd.
Why don't you smoke another joint? End of message.
Digging that song. I am so... Good to have Sarah and Amber Ladd back on. Sarah, take it away.
Hi, Amber. Welcome to NORML Show Live. Great to have you here. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello. Sorry, I was losing you guys, so I think I'm back.
You there now?
Hello?
Amber, you there?
I'm there now. I am there.
Welcome to NORML Show Live. It's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thanks, glad to be here, finally.
First question. Montreal is my favorite city in the world. What made you leave Montreal and Canada separately? Why was moving to the U.S. so important to you?
There's a lot of answers to that question. I think right now the main thing is I'm sort of the type of person who follows the guidance I feel in my life and follows my heart. And I would say that my heart right now, just briefly, is located in the U.S. and specifically on the East Coast. I'm having a fantastic time in Denver, but I can't wait to get out east. Really, there's not much more to it than that. I don't know what's in store for me here, but I have a feeling it's very big, and I'm totally just operating based on my feeling.
That's excellent. Your next change in location is moving from Denver to New York City and moving in with your good friend, High Times associate publisher Rick Cusick. That's pretty sweet.
It's true. The rumors are true. Yes. I can't. It's all about that Rick is awesome and one of my favorite people on earth. And as soon as he heard the music, he was super excited about it. And since then, since that time, we've developed a very strong friendship, and he's been kind of like with me through all of releasing trip and everything that's happened after. It was sort of his thing. He decided he wanted to kind of like give me a place to rest my head while I'm trying to do this and help me out any way that he can. And I cannot express how lucky and how grateful I am for that opportunity. He's an amazing person. So
he really
who knows?
As well. So he's
he
really
absolutely
nice
is. Absolutely.
You have an interesting Zen-like philosophy about the end of the drug war being connected to a universal human awakening. What does that belief system entail?
Wow, that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked that. I believe that a lot of suffering and misery that we experience in our daily lives is caused by our own belief and our own accepting of the belief that suffering and misery is a part of life that we get from a young age. And I also believe that all of our decisions about life, most of our reactions, which we accept as just sort of knee-jerk reactions to life happening, are based on decisions we've made throughout our life. And that those decisions are only decisions. And essentially, once you start to see or believe that your life should be filled with joy and peace, and once you start to believe or see for yourself that whatever those things that drive you are, that make you the most passionate, that, you know, you can easily be spending your time doing those things, that's why we're here. Once you see it and believe it firmly for yourself, your life starts to transform. And that's what everyone, I believe, is totally capable of finding if they're willing or if they turn their thoughts in that direction. And I think that the war on drugs in relation to that philosophy, I think that philosophy eventually deals in like complete personal freedom. Essentially, that once you are no longer making decisions about the things that other people are doing and whether those things are right or wrong by your standards, and once, you know, you are living your fullest life and allowing others to live, it becomes a lot more clear the insanity of laws that regulate behaviors in individuals that don't affect other individuals necessarily, and that are just matters of personal freedom. I think that's one of the first things to drop once you see that it's all about experience.
I'm very much in awe of your philosophy. I'm going to try to take a page out of your book, Amber. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. When you were laid off from your day job as a graphic designer, you chose to devote your time fully to the making of T-Rip. That's a risky decision in any economic times, but especially a recession. How did you make that decision, and how did you cope with it?
The truth is, when I was sitting there in the office and they were giving me the news about the job, I had an overwhelming sense of peace from that exact moment. And I stood up from the office saying I would never work a day job again. And I have absolute faith in what I'm doing. And it sounds really silly to people. People are very hooked into realism. They're very, very caught up on what is in their lives in that exact moment, what the situation is, and this reality that we're supposed to accept. You can't just quit your job and like go make an album. You can't do that. This is like an accepted philosophy. So, yeah, I heard it from all sorts of people. Family. You know, what are you doing? You can't do this. But the truth is that my faith in the fact that I've been taken care of since deciding to walk out of that door has ensured that I have. And I have been taken care of every day since I made that decision. And now things are happening exactly as I knew they would, because I knew it was the calling in my heart to make this album, and I knew that it was my destiny. But I think that every person has the potential to find that destiny and exact that for themselves. But the one thing they have to do is not care about all of those people who are saying, go get a job or whatever the circumstances might be. Here's why your dreams can't be real. The first step is forgetting all of them, period. So I'm glad you asked that too.
Yes. It opened that you smoked your first joint at 12 and you feel like that was too young. How did your formative experience with marijuana educate your life and your politics then?
I wasn't in much trouble for saying this, but the truth is, even though I do believe I was too young, I have never, will never, and cannot ever see for my own self cannabis as anything but beneficial when I've learned to use it with not in excess. I mean, I guess it's a young thing, like that's why I'm saying that it was too young, before you can make an adult choice. But I'm extremely pro-cannabis, and I understand that there are people who abuse it just like there are people who abuse everything. But I would never discourage a single human being from using cannabis in any way, in any time, at any form, for any purpose, medicinally, recreationally. I believe that we are only just beginning to uncover the benefits of this plant. And so I'm so pro that even when it comes, like, I'm not advocating children going out and smoking. Please don't think that. But what I'm saying, in general, once you've reached the age of making that decision for yourself, making sure that you're, aware of yourself, I am like super pro cannabis. So even though I started too young, I don't regret it. I don't think it'll be a part of my life my entire life.
All right.
I'm very glad to say that.
Amber Ladd and Sarah, thank you so much for joining us here on NORML Show Live. We've got to run. I'm sorry to have to cut you off here, but we're also having some problems with the connection. So thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll be right back with the California Marijuana Report coming up next on NORML Show Live.
Starfish Designs, makers of the original Gandalf.
I'm Radical Russ, and when I want to relax, I always have my 17-inch long original Gandalf from Starfish Designs nearby. The hand-blown borosilicate glass is strong and easy to clean, and the design is sleek and sophisticated. Starfish Designs are available from Bend, Oregon at a glass retailer near you. For locations, call 541-788-GLASS. That's 541-788-4527.
NORML Show Live will bring you exclusive live coverage of Seattle Hempfest on the third weekend of August. You'll probably remember more of it than those of us attending.
Today I was walking down the street, to my surprise, yeah.
The most devastating effect of the war on marijuana is that it is a war on everyday people like you and me. All we. California has long been the epicenter of marijuana law reform in the United States. We're joined now by Eric Brenner, the producer of the California Marijuana Report, for an interview with an important figure in cannabis in the Golden State. You can hear the entire California Marijuana Report on KRXA AM 540 in Monterey. Now, here's Eric Brenner.
And we're pleased to welcome to the California Marijuana Report Dr. Michael Edelstein. Dr. Edelstein is the author of 3-Minute Therapy, Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. This book is in its 9th printing. Dr. Edelstein is also the supervisor for the Smart Recovery Group in San Francisco. Dr. Edelstein, welcome to the California Marijuana Report.
Thanks for inviting me, Eric.
Now, Dr. Michael Edelstein, as a therapist in San Francisco, you must have a lot of material to work with that helped form the ideas for 3-Minute Therapy, Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. Talk to me about this great book and how it came together.
The book is based on the pioneering work of Albert Ellis,
one of the greatest psychologists of the 20th century, and he invented REBT, Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, which shows you that it's not your dysfunctional childhood or your screwy parents that cause your emotional and behavioral problems as an adult, but rather it's your thinking in your head, the attitudes, beliefs, and that's a very powerful notion, because if it's the thoughts in your head, then you can change your thinking and change your emotions, change your behaviors. You have the power to do it. You don't need a higher power to do it for you.
Dr. Edelstein, you're involved with the group called Smart Recovery in San Francisco. Talk to me about the differences between Smart Recovery and the 12-step program.
Smart Recovery has many differences and many similarities with the 12 steps. And one of the main similarities is that we're both going for acceptance. 12 steps has this acceptance prayer, they call it, which relates to accepting the things I cannot change and changing the things I can. And that's what Smart Recovery shoots for, to teach people who have addictions, whether it's drug addictions or shopping addictions or sex and love addictions or internet addictions, people who act addictively, how to accept, tolerate discomfort and frustration and problems and hassles in their life, because at its base, drug addiction is normally a compulsive escape from discomfort. So when you learn to tolerate and put up with discomfort, then you normally don't compulsively escape in drugs, and then you create more comfort for yourself in the long run. So acceptance is an important point for both. One of the main differences, though, Eric, is that in the 12 steps, the first step is stating that you are powerless over your addiction, and we believe the opposite. Not that you're powerless, but you're powerful. You're powerful, and proof that you're powerful is you're the one who decides to pour the beer in your glass and drink it down. The beer didn't knock you down and pour itself down your throat. So obviously you have the power to act addictively, so you can use that same power in a constructive way to act in a more beneficial way in your life. So those are some of that's a main similarity and a main difference.
Now, when I tell people at random that I do a show called the California Marijuana Report, it's usually I usually get pretty extreme reactions from people both who are in favor of marijuana legalization and are fans of this remarkable substance. And on the other hand, when I run across someone who is part of the AA movement or the so-called recovery movement, I get some pretty nasty responses, especially those from AA. Why are these people so anti-marijuana?
Well, I haven't spoken to any of them about it, so I don't know specifically what they would say, but my guess is that they feel that any kind of drug, particularly an illicit drug, they feel is addictive. In other words, it makes you addicted to it. You don't have the power. You're powerless, as they say in the first step. So they're against, not only are they against these drugs, but they're against the removing the prohibition of these drugs.
I would think calling for someone to be arrested for using drugs would clash with one of their steps.
I don't know that any of the steps relate to the legality or illegality of it, or advocacy for legality or illegality, so that doesn't seem to be the case.
And we're speaking with Dr. Michael Edelstein, the author of 3-Minute Therapy, Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. This book is in its 9th printing. Dr. Michael Edelstein is a therapist in San Francisco, as well as the leader and supervisor of the Smart Recovery Group in the city of San Francisco. Dr. Edelstein, how can these folks at AA, the 12-step recovery program, how could they be in favor of incarcerating someone for using marijuana? Doesn't this clash with one of their 12 steps? Isn't this also one of the flaws in this 12-step program, just to encourage the government to put the handcuffs on someone for using a psychotropic substance?
Well, if what they're speaking of is the well-being of humans, it certainly seems against that, because arresting people who are using drugs seems to serve no purpose except to bloat the criminal justice system and make the politicians look like they're doing something helpful to people, to the naive. But so I don't see a logical connection. But I'm a libertarian, and I think all drugs, not only marijuana, but all drugs, cocaine and heroin and prescription drugs, I'm in favor of legalizing all of them and just letting everyone decide for themselves whether or not they want to use a drug, not have the government decide for them, who I don't see why they would know better than the individual.
Dr. Edelstein, how are you regarded by the people at AA, the 12-Step Recovery Program, for taking these positions on drug legalization?
Well, the only people in AA that I run across on any kind of regular basis are people that come to our Smart Recovery meetings, and sometimes some of my clients have gone or go to AA, and we really don't discuss politics. And in terms of my view that you're not powerless over your addiction, they come almost always knowing what the Smart Recovery view is and what my personal view is as a clinical psychologist. So usually I don't get much flack about those things.
Let's talk about that step that you keep mentioning, that that they say that you're powerless over your addiction. You've already refuted that here on the show. Do you feel that is the most dangerous step?
Yes, I do, because most of the 12 steps are pretty irrelevant to addictions, which is good because then they're not that harmful. Just might waste the person's time, like making amends for the people you have wronged is one of the steps. So you call everyone who you think you have wronged, either in reality or in your head, and you apologize. So that's not so harmful. I don't see how that really relates to getting over your addictive behavior or your compulsive escapism. So definitely I would agree that the idea you're powerless is the most harmful step. And also sometimes I get clients who have been through AA and they tell me sometimes they use that as an excuse to get high.
And we're speaking with Dr. Michael Edelstein, the author of 3-Minute Therapy, Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. Dr. Edelstein, let's move to the election in November. We have Proposition 19 on the ballot. This would tax and legalize up to 1 ounce of marijuana here in the state. What are your thoughts on this exciting initiative to legalize marijuana here in California?
Well, it's probably better than nothing. As I said, I'm in favor of removing prohibition from all drugs, and this seems to go in that direction. My main problem with it is that it raises tax money for the government, which already is bloated enough and toxic enough, so this will just make it more bloated and more toxic if we just looked at the tax. However, if as a result of this passing, should it pass, the fewer people go to prison for using or selling marijuana, then that would probably shrink the prison population, which would be a very good thing, and lead to a lower budget for the state prison system, which might counteract the extra money the government is getting from the tax.
Let's talk about the official positions of some people in the recovery movement on Proposition 19. Many have come out against this initiative, claiming it would lead to more drug abuse. What's your take on that ridiculous position?
Unfortunately, we're going to have to cut the interview short here for the California Marijuana Report. We'll play the second part of this next week. It's an excellent interview with Dr. Michael Edelstein. And in our second hour, Toker Talk Radio, I want to get your opinions on the 12-step programs, if you've ever had any other drug addiction, what you think of the notion of marijuana as addictive. That's coming up in our second hour. Until then, we'll be right back after these messages.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for NORML. And I smoke pot and I like it a lot. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact NORML at NORML.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORML. You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley. Radical rant.
Okay, folks, it's 50 after the hour, creeping up on it anyway, and I got a new rant for you. This is posted up at the Stash blog at stash.normal.org, and I just was thinking one day that I ought to collect all of the crazy things that I've read about Proposition 19 and just put them in one easy-to-understand rant. So this is the top 8 craziest things predicted by opponents of Prop 19 marijuana legalization in California. I'll get about a minute for each of them, so let's start with number 8. The federal government will pull all its contracts with California businesses because they won't be able to drug test employees. Yeah, this is a favor to the California Chamber of Commerce. Their idea is that since there's a Drug-Free Workplace Act, and then people will be able to have marijuana and smoke marijuana, and they won't be able to drug test people for marijuana, that somehow they'll violate the Drug-Free Workplace Act and lose all this federal money. Well, here's the problem, and this is from hrhero.com, your employment law resource. For a drug-free workplace, employers must certify that they will provide a drug-free workplace. The law doesn't require alcohol or drug testing. But testing is implicitly authorized as a means to maintain a drug-free workplace. So that doesn't count. They don't have to drug test. And as far as that possession of marijuana they're worried about, the Drug-Free Workplace Act says employers whose companies fall into this category must have a policy prohibiting unlawful possession of marijuana, which after Prop 19, possession will no longer be unlawful. All right, number 7. Legalizing marijuana for healthy people will end medical marijuana for sick people. Yeah, try to wrap your mind around the idea that allowing everyone to grow their own 25-square-foot garden means sick people will not get their medicine. And then imagine that a court would decide that people who voted to legalize marijuana for healthy people were really voting to get rid of medical marijuana for sick people. If you can imagine that, you've entered the mind of J. Craig Canada. Now, he based his analysis in the Santa Cruz Drug Policy Examiner on point number 6 that says it will provide easier, safer access for patients who need cannabis for medical purposes. But then he says that means that will supersede Prop 215, right? Because number 6 says it'll be easier for medical patients. But then he goes out and cites number 7 and number 8, which provide a direct exemption for people under Prop 215. So you got that? He says number 6 will supersede, that is, get rid of Prop 215, except that number 7 and number 8 give you an exception under Prop 215. It either gets rid of it, except when it doesn't. All right, number 6. Legalizing marijuana will never raise any money because the social costs would outweigh any fiscal benefits. Why? Look at alcohol and tobacco. This is something the proponents of Prop 19 point out, is that alcohol and tobacco taxes don't raise near enough money to cover all the social harms from alcohol and tobacco. And this is one instance where figures don't lie, but liars figure. Yeah, it's true that the taxes from alcohol and tobacco don't come close to covering the costs of lung cancer, cirrhosis, emphysema, drunk driving, cigarette breaks, domestic violence. After a while, that starts to add up. But marijuana is not alcohol and tobacco. A Canadian study found that each tobacco smoker cost the country $800 per year, each drinker cost $165 per year, and each toker cost only $20 per year, and half of that was the laundry cost for Cheetos stains. No, I'm kidding about that last part. So if there is any cost to marijuana smoking, we're paying it now, and we're taking in zero in taxes, and we're spending billions to try to prohibit it and not succeeding. Wouldn't it make more sense to make some money from taxes? All right, the number 5 reason why the opponents of Prop 19 are crazy. Big Tobacco will buy up great huge tracts of land in Northern California and mass produce lousy joints pumped full of toxic addictive chemicals. This isn't from the normal people that'd be against, Proposition 19, like cops and clergymen and such. This is one of the complaints from people who actually smoke and grow pot themselves. They've had this long-time belief that Humboldt County is going to be overrun by the tobacco companies that'll buy up all the land and they'll trademark all the names of pot and it'll all be toxic swaggy joints. Well, look. Prop 19 gives local communities the ability to control how marijuana will be grown, bought, and sold. So why would Humboldt County allow that? Why wouldn't they want to support their local growers? And if Philip Morris or R.J. Reynolds wants to produce a whole bunch of toxic swaggy joints, who's buying them? People will have the ability to grow their own 5x5 garden, get it for friends, or get it at all sorts of other retail outlets. Why would they buy the swaggy joints? The number 4 reason given by the opponents of Prop 19 as to how dangerous it would be to legalize. Number 4, today's pot is 14 times more powerful than 60s weed and will lead to more crack babies. Yes, this is Los Angeles Bishop Ron Allen who's got you this little bit of reefer madness. He said to the LA Times, quote, "It's going to cause crime to go up. There will be more drug babies," end quote. And in the New York Times, he described marijuana as, quote, "the most sinister drug," and asked that the demonic spirits be cast back into hell. Now, the bishop should know because he was a former crack addict, and the first illegal drug he used was marijuana. See, the problem with that whole Bishop Allen gateway theory is that while nearly every crack addict has smoked pot, very few pot smokers have ever smoked crack. The only commonality between marijuana and cocaine is that they're both illegal drugs. And in fact, marijuana is more illegal. It's Schedule 1. Cocaine is Schedule 2. Your doctor can actually prescribe to you in any of the 50 states cocaine, but he cannot prescribe to you marijuana unless it's in one of the 14 states. And even then, it's only a recommendation. Now, as far as he also warned, this is amazing, Bishop Allen also warned that you'd have to smoke 14 joints of 1960s weed to get the same effect as one joint of today's weed. So he's saying the weed is 14 times stronger. Now, I've been following the Potency Monitoring Project out of the University of Mississippi for years. Yes, there is a federal agency that's spending your tax dollars to prove how diggity dank your chronic is. And the top percentage of THC they've ever recorded in any seizure came out of San Mateo, California, 37.2% THC. So if you do the division, what is 14 times less than 37.2% THC? That means the best weed Bishop Allen was smoking in the 60s was 2.65% THC, or a grade somewhere between ditchweed and feral hemp. Now, since the average seizure of weed from the Potency Monitoring Project is 8.52%, that means Bishop Allen was smoking the equivalent of a hemp t-shirt. All right, the number 3 crazy prediction from Prop 19 opponents. People who smoke marijuana in the same apartment building as a child will be arrested. Not that your landlord will let you grow pot anyway. Yes, there are some marijuana smokers who think that an ounce of cannabis in 25 square foot garden isn't enough, so they've taken to sifting through the initiative of Prop 19, trying to find every flaw, misinterpretation, and slippery slope they can to muddy the conversation. Take this 2 a.m. stoned to the gills contemplation of the word space, man. Consuming cannabis would be illegal in the same space as a minor. Police and judges are free to interpret the word space to mean the same room, the same house, or an entire apartment complex. Yeah, well, I suppose police and judges are free to interpret the word space to mean the cosmos, too. And since there's children in the universe, the vote to legalize marijuana means nobody can smoke pot anywhere. Yeah, sure. And if that's not enough to dissuade you, they'd like to tell you that renters would have to ask their landlord's permission to grow marijuana. Why wouldn't any landlord or property owner be apprehensive about that? Well, they tell you, quote, "While growing your own supply is fun as hell, it can also be messy, dangerous, and can easily cause damage if done improperly. Not to mention homeowners insurance is likely to rise and homes containing cannabis could face seizure by the federal government." Yeah, what property owner wants that? So to sum up their reasoning here, you should vote no on being able to grow weed and hold an ounce, even if you own your own home, because some renters wouldn't be able to grow, but they could still hold an ounce, and you couldn't smoke around kids. Really? Really? That's what's holding you up? Not being able to smoke around kids? Really? That's something you do on a weekend? All right, the number 2 crazy reason legally grown marijuana will lead to outbreaks of toxic, deadly mold. Oh no, this is Alexandra Datig on this one. This is the aspergillus thing where, the mold is going to grow and take over the houses and it's going to be terrible. Yes, there is an aspergillus mold. You know how many people it killed in 2004? 261. you're more likely to die of appendicitis than you are from aspergillus. That's 0.88255 deaths per 1 million people. And finally, number 1. Workplaces would be overrun by workers smoking marijuana on the job.
That's my job, actually.
That's right. The California Chamber of Commerce said, imagine a workplace where employees show up to work high on marijuana and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, folks, just trust the California Legislative Analyst Office that said employers would retain existing rights to address consumption of marijuana that impairs an employee's job performance. You can check out the whole rant at stash.normal.org. We're getting ready for Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. We're talking about 12 steps. And until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
We love the earth.
This is NORML Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
Take it on one more time. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it.